So, we are here again on Time for Anything with my friends Jon and Gabe with our little mini-series that we do called Anything Goes, where we are unscripted, all off the noggin, whatever comes to mind. Say hi.
Hello.
What's up?
So you were telling me earlier, actually, about just some stuff that you were dealing with, like with your kid and just the kind of stuff you go through. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of why I wanted to just pick you up today and do the driving for you, because I feel like money has just been one of those things where, especially in 2020, people are really struggling with that.
Yeah.
It's been really difficult. I mean, and I can't imagine if I had a kid right now how I'd handle that. Like, do you think you've had more of a struggle recently because of the current situation? I mean, I guess you've been employed, so you haven't really had much
I haven't
issues.
had a break in my employment or anything per se. I think you had an episode where is your brother Nate?
Yeah, he was on the parent.
Yeah, Nate was on one of our last episodes. Yeah, actually, John's brother.
Yeah.
Talking about just raising a kid and stuff, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I'd be kind of interested in to hear what you have to say about how raising a kid has kind of changed your life.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, man, I'm one of those. Well, I'm statistic. You got to understand that, right? So, when I say that, I mean I had a kid or I conceived the kid when I was 16, right? So.
And also, as far as I remember, Becky was on birth control.
Oh
and
yeah,
it
that was
shouldn't have happened.
that was yeah. I apparently it's not apparently it does happen. So I didn't know at the time, but it makes sense when you think about it now. But medications, like depending on the medication, it can actually get in the way of like pill contraceptives and stuff like that.
I had never thought about that.
So that's what her doctor thinks is what happened. Because I don't think she's a piece of shit. I had no suspicions that she wasn't taking contraceptives or whatever. I mean, it was kind of a it was a weird situation. So anyway, she ended up getting pregnant, and I had to bang on the hatches, man. Like I had to do what I had to do as a man at this point. You know what I mean? And so I understood that at 16. I knew what it was to take responsibility. Like my father very much raised me in that kind of respect. You know what I mean? And I respect that man more than anything in the world because of what the type of things he's been through.
I met your mom once.
Yeah.
But your mom seemed like an amazing person.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing a video of you with Jacob on Instagram. And this has just stuck with me, and it just makes me so happy when I think back on it. But Jacob is this a pine cone? Oh, it's a pine cone. And you're talking with him about this, and just the way that you speak to him and treat him, I pull the parallels. Like the way that Gabe's mom has definitely played a part in the way that you parent your kid. She seemed like she was so loving and caring towards you. And every parent has their moments, but I think that you've kind of inadvertently pulled that mindset into the way you raise your kid, and the way I see you treat Jacob is awesome. I just think you've been doing such a good job with it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But I mean, I believe it definitely. Their kind of parenting style really helped me, and just them just more so helping me or just kind of raising me the way they did. And I won't say mature early because there's still tendencies that I have that are immature.
Well, yeah, I mean,
we're all I feel like we're all working on it. We all have those kinds of tendencies and emotional kind of the things that happen, right? But they did their best, and that worked up to, okay, well, I have to take responsibility for this, or I should, not that I have to, but I believe I should. And that's another conversation too, because I now, like at this time, not to get controversial or anything, but I also kind of believe in it's a woman's choice to get an abortion or not. You know what I mean? I'm pro-choice, as they would say.
Do you mind if I ask you about? I don't know how much you want to share, but I'm kind of curious as to what happened, because I'm sure there was the initial shock of, oh, Becky's pregnant.
Yeah.
And then there was the layer on top of it of, oh, are we going to decide to have this kid because we're 16, or I guess Becky was probably 18 at the time.
Yeah.
But how did that affect you? How did you handle that? What happened?
Well, it was like a combination of things, right? So there was the initial shock. Yeah, wow, like shit. I got my girlfriend pregnant. Oh boy. And it actually, it didn't for a couple of days. It kind of just swam in my head. I didn't tell anybody. I remember I was watching Dragon Ball Z when she told me. I was like still being a kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What an unfortunate way. You're just sitting enjoying some Dragon Ball Z, and then Becky's like, oh, we're gonna have a kid.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like sitting there. I was laying in my bed. I had like posters, and like I had action figures on a wall, and like
I still have action figures up.
No, yeah, I'm not saying like, I'm just saying like it was so funny the way it happened, because I'm like laying in my small ass twin size bed, whatever, and like snuggled up in my blanket. I get a call. Oh, you're pregnant. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, so she called you.
Yeah, she called me.
She didn't even tell you in person.
No, remember, Phil, I used to live in New York. So it was a bit of a long distance relationship. But she visited very often. I visited too, because my cousins lived over. My cousins still live over here, of course. I have some family over here. But anyway, continuing from that, yeah, there was the initial shock, and she, at first I won't lie and say, oh, I was like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta settle down, I gotta be a man about this,
Right.
You're
16.
Yeah, exactly. I was shocked, and I was just like, a father, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like some
it's
people.
Terrifying.
Some like it's crazy how in today's world, it's like that thing is so common now, and it really shouldn't be, because you're not done growing. You're not.
Yeah, at that point you're still basically a kid.
So it was very much. I'm not gonna say I wasn't a stupid kid either. I mean, I wasn't an AP kid or anything. I wasn't like honors at most. So I understood like the gravity of the situation. I was like, man, like I gotta be responsible for someone else's emotional growth, as well as financial stability. Well, I gotta take care of them.
Yes, you literally have to raise another human being.
Exactly, and I wasn't done. Like I'm still in the oven, pretty much. Like
yeah. Well, I mean, the brain doesn't even stop developing until around 25. But even then, you're still growing through your entire life.
Exactly. You're just experiencing and learning different things.
Always gaining knowledge.
Always gaining.
Exactly.
We were just talking about this last night. Like there's always something that you can learn, and some way to change your mindset and grow. Yeah.
Right.
So that sounds like that was kind of a shock.
Yeah. So it was after talking, like finally telling my mother and father about the whole ordeal, which.
How did that go?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. How do you even go about telling them? And did you have the kind of parents that would be like really pissed at you?
Well, my dad grew up. You gotta understand. My dad grew up in Mexico, and he immigrated when he was 19. Because he told me the story.
Wow.
I just can't remember. So, he immigrated when he was 19. And he had a really hard life. He had a really hard life up until that point. I mean, he's had a hard life his entire life. I would like to, most of his life, I would like to say. So it almost kind of like it crushed him in a way. You know what I mean? Because it was like he in his head it was, oh wow, his life is now gonna be just like hell. Like it's gonna be harder. It's not hell, obviously, but it's just gonna be harder.
Because he now has to essentially help raise another kid.
Yeah.
And how many siblings do you have?
Well, it wasn't even that. It was
how many brothers do you have?
I have 5 other siblings in total.
5 other siblings.
Yeah,
so there were 6 of you, as it were, and then your dad's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a grandfather when my kid's 16."
Well, my oldest sister, God rest her soul, she died when I was 6.
Oh.
And
I feel like I remember you mentioning that, but that was a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that was yeah. I think I did tell you that, but yeah, that was So she wasn't around, so it was actually, you know what? Yeah, it was me. It was her, my oldest brother, second oldest brother, then my second oldest sister, then me, then my baby sister.
Oh, you have a little sister?
Yeah.
I've never.
She's 3 years younger than me.
Wow.
Yeah. You just never met her. She never. Well,
She
was there.
Does she live in
once.
New York?
She lives. Well, my parents moved to Connecticut. But we're kind of like going back on track with this. So yeah, like my dad, he grew up like the only thing stopping him was just he needed to take care of his family, because my grandmother, she's still alive. Yeah, she wasn't doing so well at a certain point while he was going to high school. So he had to drop out of high school, essentially to support like my grandmother. Yeah, they worked on a ranch. You know what I mean? He had to get water from a well that was like a mile away every day.
Wow.
He had to like milk cows. He had to raise chickens and stuff like that. So it was, for him, it was just the only thing stopping him was he had to do, there's things he had to do that no one else could. So my mom's side of the story is different, because I'm pretty sure all of my aunts and uncles were like, they my grandmother conceived them when she was like younger. They have different parents. They have different dads and stuff like that.
Okay.
And and then even my own siblings, like they have my first two oldest brother and sister, they were conceived by a different man, and then my brother Justin and Bianca were conceived by someone else. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So it was just like my mom understood, and she conceived them when you were. It was like it's like a generational thing.
No, I get what what you're getting at,
and that's bad. I'm not saying that's good. It's just how it was, and that shouldn't be the way things are. But that's just how it happened. So
but it's not necessarily bad. It's just the way things went.
Yeah.
And to kind of relate, my dad was in a very similar situation, which my dad never had any full siblings.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong, but I believe that he had 4 or 5 other siblings, and I think maybe only 2 of them were ever from the same people. So Margaret, my grandmother, she had kids with several other people. So yeah, it creates a strange dynamic when you think one person. My dad was 44 when he passed, and I believe that, I could be wrong, but I think his oldest brother was like 60 something. So there's this huge gap. It's kind of shocking. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I assume that's kind of how you're experiencing things. Is your oldest siblings are a lot older than you, and especially your youngest sister.
Yeah. It was I mean, like I didn't mean to say it was bad, but it's like you don't want those kinds of things to be. You know what I mean? Like obviously, I'm sure my mom, when she got pregnant young, she was like, wow, like basically like me. You know what I mean? Like wow, I this is gonna be hard. So that's essentially what I meant. So all I was trying to say there is just essentially like my mom was more understanding than my dad. My mom was still in shock when I first told her. It was like, wow, like your life's gonna be hard, but I'm always gonna be here for you. Like I understand. Like, and she was more nurturing about it. My dad was still nurturing about it, but he was just like, wow, like, damn, dude, you're gonna have to. He wasn't even about himself. It was about, he was still worried about me. He didn't care that he had to help me raise another human being, at least at first. It was more so, wow, like I feel bad because you can't have a regular, like you can't go out there and have a regular life like a real person, because now you have to worry about someone else, and now you have to stabilize their life. You have to sacrifice what you have to sacrifice. And,
you don't get an opportunity to live through your 20s and do stuff before settling down.
Let me just say, I've definitely already, like, that doesn't bother me. Like I'm at a certain point, I still kind of do the things I wanted to do. Not entirely, because I still love to travel stuff, but it doesn't, to me, it doesn't even matter, because I've come to terms with that kind of stuff. Right. And man, Jacob to me is a blessing. Like he's helped me grow more than any experience I've ever had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if anything, it was almost a good thing. I mean, depending on how you look at it, because you had to grow up quicker, and you had to start understanding what it is like to be an adult at an earlier age. And while that's almost unfortunate because you didn't have time to, like I was kind of saying, go through your 20s and kind of figure out who you are, you now have to help raise a kid, but that can be beneficial. I experienced almost something sort of similar with my dad's passing when I was 10. I feel like I had to grow up a little quicker, and my brother was my father figure, and I've adopted so many just ways of thinking. I mean, my mannerisms, the way I speak and everything, because my brother, because he's who I look to. So I can imagine that it's a similar situation, but almost opposite, in which you didn't lose your father early, but you became a father early, so you had to grow up quicker and learn that and figure that out.
Yeah, it was pretty much just like that. I definitely had to like snap. You know what I mean? I had to, and I understood. Like I said, I understood that. I understood that once after. I would say after I talked to my dad initially, when this thing happened, when I first told him about Becky being pregnant, he, after I first talked to him, I was like, wow, I have to really just like stabilize. I have to get out of high school first. I have to
wow.
I have to I couldn't even, like, college was still on the table, but at that point I was just like, well, there's other options, like there's trade schools.
Yeah, if anything, you did it right. I mean, that's how we met. Is we both went to BTI. We got IT degrees, and that's you did the best thing that I think you could have done. Is you got out of high school, you went for a trade. It was cheaper than going to college. You now have a good job in which you're able to at least support your kid. Yeah, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm still, like, not to say that I'm still looking to go even higher, and I think it's a perfect field too, because one, I enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, like, talking on the phone with people can sometimes get like that. All right, once I'm off the phones, I'll be fine.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I've been there.
But I mean, past that, I still enjoy problem solving and the technical kind of like troubleshooting part of it. Because that's always been just like, I like thinking about. It's almost like being a detective in a way.
Yeah.
But like problem solver. Like, you sit there, you have to think about what's going on. In certain areas, in certain jobs, it's not like that, because they want you to go quick with it, right? So you have to send it somewhere, right? So, but all in all, I still enjoy what I do. You know what I mean? I'd rather be doing this than like working at McDonald's or doing some other mundane, like, life-sucking task.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Thank God you're not in that boat, because trying to live alone and raise a kid working at McDonald's is not very efficient.
Yeah. No, you see that a lot. It's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's at this point, it's just like, I'm kind of, the situation I went through. I mean, I'm willing to talk about it here as well. So I'm on, like, because of that, I'm on cruise control right now, at least until the end of the year and into the new year. But besides that, I plan on going further. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so. And this, I think, one thing that I've always really respected about you as a person is that you suffer silently, I think, is what I said earlier, and that's one thing. That's not really what I was getting to, but that's you're very humble, and you don't push your issues on people, and you feel like you have to deal with things yourself. And then that plays into the thing I respect about you, is that you always move forward. You're always trying to find the way out, and not out, but the way up. You're always trying to find a way to move forward and progress and keep going. And you're faced with hardships like dealing with an early pregnancy and having to raise a kid, and then going to college and finding a job, and then progressing through that job, and then supporting your child, and then having a medical incident with your child that you have to take care of them and support them, and everything on top of that. But you always just keep moving. You never give up. I've never seen you lay down and just take it. It sounds sort of weird, but I almost feel like it's kind of your boxing mentality that you got because of going through boxing. It's this, what, you get knocked down, but what are you going to do? Are you going to be out? If you can get back up, you get back up. You keep fighting. So that's what I see you do, and I love that so much about you. You have this mentality that you're like, I get knocked down, but you're not out until you're out, and when you're out, you're dead. And you just keep moving. You just keep pushing and fighting, and that's so awesome. Just keep doing that, because I think that that's something that you're really gonna help Jacob with, and that's something that's going to change him for the rest of his life, is he's going to be an adult at some point, and he's going to look back and think, my dad did everything to support me. He always kept moving. He always kept fighting. He always took care of me. He was always there for me, and that's just awesome.
Right.
Thank you. Well, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like. I never really looked at it that way, but to me, it's always like. Again, I grew up where there was there was like 5 of us at least in the house. You know what I mean? We bounced from different apartments, and it was like I always saw the people I look up to. They never had an off switch. They never had so I owe that to them. More so, it's just like they never, and then that mentality too, the boxing mentality played into it, because I did it on and off for, well, you don't know, John, but I did it on and off for some time. But it's more so like those people couldn't give up. Like you can't, you just, because if you give up, then you're taking down a bunch of other people with you, people that they need you. So I'm only only responsible for one other person besides myself. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not ever, even if it, like even now, it's just like life keeps on until like you pull the plug on yourself, or your time comes. Then it's gonna keep moving whether you like it or not. So to me, it was just like, man, like this happened. Yeah, that's just life, and I might have taken a bit from my sanity a little bit, just a little bit, but
okay.
but yeah, you gotta just keep going, man. Like it.
Do you think that Jacob has helped you push through more? Like, I mean, I feel like he has. It's your reason to keep going, if anything, right? You're like, well, if I'm not going to keep going for myself, I got to keep going for Jacob.
Oh yeah, like it's definitely also him as well. Like I can't just like. I can't sit here and give up on myself, because at that point I'm giving up on him as well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And
exactly.
I can't do that. There's no other option, pretty much. You know what I mean? And you're gonna get dealt severe blows. It's not just me. Everyone. John's gonna get dealt some blows. You're gonna get dealt some severe blows. You got to keep going, because it's not. The game keeps going on and on. You know what I mean, man? And you're gonna have good days. You're gonna have bad days. You know what I mean? And that's just a part of the whole scheme of things.
Yeah, I think it's especially important that you can like work through those issues on your own, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of people, and they just rely on other people to get them through their issues. They just like always they just need people around them all the time, people to talk to, people to like comfort them all the time, and then they end up giving up eventually because they don't have people around them. Because people aren't always going to be there for you.
Yeah,
so
they're
being
not
able
self-reliant.
Yeah, and that's really important to have that self-reliance.
Yeah,
be able to get through things on your own.
It's funny that you should mention that, because I'm a computer gamer. As the same as, I'm not sure if you play PC games or not.
Play Xbox, but
console gamer.
It's cheap. It's cheap and easy.
No. Yeah, I
press the power button and I play.
But Phil me play PC games, and what I'm saying is like we're a part of we are on Discord. It's just like another application where you can like hangouts and stuff like that, right? So I have a lot of friends on there, and I have a few particular friends that they fit into that description, and I hate that I do this sometimes, but I'm kind of that person to them in a way, and another thing is like moving here to PA too, like besides my cousins or besides my aunt's family, I don't have family over here, or I don't have family that at least tries to communicate with me as much, and that's my fault too, because sometimes I just don't contact her or them. But I just don't have a lot of family over here, so it's basically just me. Day to day is just me and Jacob. Once I have him, that's also another thing. We're me and the mother of my child aren't together any longer, and again, that's just life. Things just don't work out, more or less, but. I'm basically alone. So being put in that, I'm introverted too. Like I had those kind of tendencies growing up. I liked being around people.
You're definitely an extroverted introvert.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's yeah.
No,
that's basically what it like. When I'm around people, I like to have conversation. But there's times where I just like I'd rather just stay alone, like, you know, just be in solitude. And, you know, if someone asks me if, hey, can I come over, I just will be like, I really won't have any other reason besides I just want to chill alone.
No, but that's okay. I feel like a lot of people aren't really comfortable with admitting that. I mean, I definitely have had days where people have asked me to do things, and I feel like I just have to be honest and say, listen, I just feel like I want an alone day. I just want to be by myself. Sometimes you just need those days.
Yeah,
I would think everyone, even like strong extroverts, would need those days.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't take those days, but
everyone needs that time to be with themselves and understand themselves.
But it's like so I've definitely had times where I was so used to being, like in New York, I was so used to being around my brothers and sisters. I got put in an environment now where it's like I'm just alone with my thoughts half the time, most of the time. I wouldn't even say half the time. So that was definitely a challenge to get through, and you know, that's when I found out, you know, I can definitely do this. You know, it's just another thing I have to get through. You know, I just have myself, and then every other week I have Jacob. But you know, it's just you have to learn how to be alone and make the most of solitude. You know what I mean? Because that's a lot of time. You grow from interacting with other people, from gaining different perspective. But I would argue that being in solitude has just as much, not merit. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, it has more gain. You know what I mean? Just as much gain, as hanging around with other people. Because you learn. To me, I feel like you learn more about yourself when you really focus on the kind of thought process you put yourself through when you look at like day-to-day situations or things that you're going through, like what I was going through with Jacob's whole accident.
Yeah.
And it really helped me to kind of sit down and say, well, you know, not work my way out of things, but try to work my way through things.
Yes.
And that's really important because I think a lot of people these days they either try to think like other people, and it just doesn't work, or they look to other people for advice constantly. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you really need to try and sit there and become a problem solver yourself, because that's just an important life skill to me.
Yeah, you can't rely on it, just like John, you were saying. You can't rely on other people all the time.
Exactly. So you know, work through your stuff. You know, try as best as you can. I understand there's people that have their own kind of like they have their own mental anguish. They have mental issues. You know what I mean? You have your own anxieties and stuff like that, and it can be hard, you know, to face your day-to-day issues and stuff like that. But I promise, the better you get at trying to work through things on your own, at least trying it, the more you'll grow as a person, and the more you'll be able to identify the toxic traits you might have, or the toxic ways you might be going about things. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that is definitely important.
Now, I can't imagine how many times I've said this to people, but I mean, at least I said this to you last night. One of my favorite quotes right now is, "Life's a test, it's only a test. Had this been a real life, you would have been told where to go and what to do." And I think that's where this mentality of having to figure things out comes into play. It's you're not given all the answers. You're not told how to solve everything yourself. You're not guided. And at some point in your life, it's just up to you to figure out that journey and figure out the way that you're going to work through issues. So one thing I kind of want to ask you about, John, if you're comfortable talking about it, is I know that you, for the majority of your life, were raised in a household in which, I mean, again, you and Nate had the same parents. You were raised in a household in which your parents were always there for you physically, in the sense where you always had food on the table, clothes on your back, you were always supported, but did you ever kind of feel like you weren't really emotionally cared for?
Maybe a little bit. Like, I'm sure if I actually went to my parents and asked them something, like about like how I'm feeling or something like that, they would probably give me advice. But at the end of the day, they would just kind of give me their Christian perspective on it, which isn't exactly an open-minded perception, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I can understand how you see it that way.
It's like, I'll be like, oh, I'm struggling with this, and the advice I'd probably get is, oh, you should just pray about it and think about it. And I mean, maybe that's not the worst advice,
But, you were more so looking for an answer of how do I actually practically solve this issue?
Exactly. Like,
what are the steps I need to take?
Because I'm more like a man of like, I want to take this action to do this, not just think about it,
and hope it works
more,
out.
More of action than thought.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Do you feel like you've grown more independent because of that? Because you kind of had to figure everything out for yourself?
100%. Yeah. Because I mean, I haven't like even gone to my parents and told them like, hey, I am not really pursuing this Christian life anymore. It's like they'd still think that maybe I am. So that kind of forces me to just kind of like come up with my own views on things and do all of my own research on my own. And obviously I have people to talk to like you, Mike, just about anyone else outside of people that I met from the church. But I mean, it just forces you to take action on your own and not always just ask your parents or other family members.
Yeah. Like, I think perspective is, like, that's the thing I like also about interacting with other people, which because it's a give or take, you know what I mean? That solitude, and again, from going back to what I said was important, but perspective to me, that's another thing I like about talking to other people, right? Is like you gain perspective, right?
Right.
So that's where you decide. Well, you had to work on stuff yourself, but you looked at your parents' perspective. You were just like, well, it's only this way. Maybe I should, talking to other people. It does wonders. You know what I mean? Gaining, that's the thing I like about interacting with other people. It's just like gaining perspective is so much. It has so much value to me. Even talking to someone that might not be as mature. Even if they're not as mature, even if they're not as book smart or street smart, is the best way I can kind of say, because I'm just lacking I just don't know what the terminology would be for that, but I think that's one of the best things about interacting with other people. It's just like seeing their view on life.
Right. I mean, like I was saying to Phil last night, even just like doing like bullshit stuff, like watching YouTube, watching TikTok, or talking to random people at the store or whatever. Even if you're not talking about anything relevant, you're still just like gaining knowledge on that person, how they interact, how they move, how they like look around, how they just stay idle. And like, even though you're not consciously thinking about it, you're subconsciously taking in all that information and just constantly like learning about how other people interact with other people. And it's a wonderful thing. It really is.
It's definitely one of my favorite things about life is because to me with my personal spiritual beliefs, I have this idea that we're all here, again, it's a test, it's a game. We're all here to learn and understand the reality that we exist in. And I think that is something that I enjoy so much is, I mean, that's literally why I get you people on the podcast, because I think I want to know the way you think about things, and I want to know the way you've dealt with having a kid and the way you've dealt with having to be more independent in the way that you conquer issues because you kind of had to figure it out for yourself. Because if you're closed-minded, it's very hard to grow. And when you're open-minded and you're willing to accept new things and new viewpoints, it helps you give different perspective. I think that's one thing. This is sort of a silly example, but I feel you ever played a game with someone for the first time and they're really good at it, and they say, hey, do this, or make sure that you're attacking this way, or if you're using this weapon, use it in this way. And I think that's the thing is in almost anything you do, you have to be open to the idea that someone else has it more figured out in a very particular way compared to you. That's why I go to people for advice with things that I don't know how to handle. My brother and his fiance said, when you buy your first home, come to us and talk to us about it, because we've been through that. And I think I can go to them, and I'm sure there are several other people I can go to, but why would I not go to them, right? Why would I not go to someone who's done it before, who has the answers in their view set? So that's the thing, is that's an amazing thing about life, is that everyone else is trying to figure out the same game you are. So you can go to an infinite number of people and say, how do I do this? Yeah. And that's so cool. It's just the ability to just grow and always find a new way to progress forward.
And for a lot of people, it's just kind of an ego thing. It's hard to just like go to other people and be like, hey, I don't know anything about this.
Yes.
And it sucks.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid to admit that they don't know how to do something.
Yeah, and I even see that in myself sometimes. There's sometimes I don't want to go to someone and ask for help because it's like embarrassing.
Huh.
I mean, I'm not saying it's always embarrassing, but
no, I understand what you mean. So you're almost kind of afraid to admit that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's not. I think that's a natural thing. But yeah, like and it's just not even that. Sometimes it's a better way. Like, to me, the exciting thing is that just thinking about a situation differently, right? So someone, let's say someone has something as mundane as someone, well, not even mundane, a situation like someone is disloyal to you, someone cheated on you or something like that. A lot of people, there's people that side with that's you for trying to be a forgiving person and working on things or just completely damning a person, right? And it's just like me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm the type of person where it's like I don't think there's a reason to cheat unless someone is physically or mentally abusive to you in a relationship, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But
I mean, at that point, you should just be exiting the relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Maybe that was a bad example.
No, I get what you're saying. Is like there's almost no excuse for it, and when you're in a situation where you don't feel like you're being taken care of, or that person is like your partner, it's easy for people to default to, instead of dealing with the situation and escaping, they take an ulterior route, and I don't fully understand how to phrase exactly what I'm saying, but I guess it's this idea that people are always looking for shortcuts or temporary gratification without dealing with the hardship that's in front of them.
Right. They like the comfortability that they're in right now with their current relationship, with the time they spend in it, and they don't want to lose that, but they're looking for something else.
Yeah, it's exactly like Nate said when he was on. He said humans really like taking shortcuts. And I think that's such an interesting thing he said. It's so true. We're almost always looking for a way to do something easier, simpler, without the work. That's why we are able to sit here and record through a mic on a computer right now, and we have phones that can do almost anything we want, because humans are always progressing towards something that makes everything else more efficient and easier. And that's just what we tend to do sometimes in our relationships. Unfortunately, some people do end up cheating on people, and because they're afraid to face the situation at hand.
Yeah,
it's sad.
It is. It's like, at the expense of someone else's mental stability. You know what I mean? Because that does mess with that makes people think, why am I not good enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's you're just it could be crippling sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, how did we get here?
It doesn't matter. Reds, anything goes, bro. We're going. Anything, and it's going. We're just going.
It's just going.
No, yeah, but it's perspective, man.
Jon, tell me about something that's it's either been hard for you, or something that's been interesting for you, or something that you feel like has changed since you've grown up. Like, just give me some perspective on.
I'm interested on, not to cut you off, Phil, but I'm interested on like, so I know your brothers are they lean more towards the Christian values that your parents set forth. Like, when did you start, like, well, unless I'm wrong about that.
I mean, it kind of goes in, like, I know Derek mentioned this one time. He was like, kind of from like age down to you kind of just like care less and less.
You have.
It's like Nate's strong Christian, Mike's kind of like in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he's leaning more towards my side than Nate's side, but yeah, and then me, where I'm just kind of like, I don't believe this. I'm just not there at all.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So like it's more so like, when did you realize that, or when did you start questioning it? Is my question.
Probably around the time I like got my first car and my first job, because it kind of comes with that freedom. Like, just kind of like thinking to yourself, like, man, I could just drive wherever the fuck I want. You know?
So then you just kind of feel this independence, and you're like, well, I can drive wherever I want. Yeah. I can think whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you don't really hear that from anyone else. You're just kind of like, oh, this is what you heard from me, so it's fact.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you hear a lot in the church. And they don't really like give you that opportunity to question anything. I mean, you can ask your questions, but you're just gonna get the same answers over and over. So just being out there on my own, I was just kind of like, oh,
you don't have a question. That is natural. That is very natural.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I would think a lot of people probably go through the same phase.
Yeah, I remember one thing that Mike said to me, and this actually was this is really interesting. He said that he feels like he kind of got, and I'm sure I wasn't the total reason, but he said I was part of his idea that he could think for himself. He said you had your mindsets and you were strong-willed in your perspectives, and I had the idea that I could think freely for myself, and he saw that and he was like, well, I can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's maybe something that, not necessarily because of me, but maybe that's something that you adapted from Mike, is the idea that he's kind of now adopted this philosophy of, I can understand the world for myself and through my lenses, and I can still take on other people's perspectives, but I have the ability to think freely.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think a little bit from you even, because, I mean, at the time that, like, me, Mike, and my mom and Nate would all come down to your house, like, I was, like, 6, 7 years old?
Yeah.
And at that point, like, the only other people that I, like, ever talked to were just people that I met at the church, you know, it was, like, strong Christian people. Everyone in the family was, like, strong Christian. So anytime I'd go over to your place and be like, oh, playing M-rated games. It was like, oh, this like...
Yeah, it was like a taste of like, oh man, like, so this is what, like...
Maybe I shouldn't have had you guys playing Halo at the age.
Oh, no, it was good. Hey, man, it was a good thing. Yeah. And like playing airsoft and like playing with fake guns and stuff like that. You know, it just kind of gives this different perspective that I didn't have anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I can't really see anything with that now because that was like 14 years ago, so I don't really know what influence that had on me back then. But definitely like growing up, you kind of have that subconscious thing going off in your mind of like past experiences you've had.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that definitely you influenced a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what I always liked about you as a person, Phil. Because when I met you at BTI, like in our initial interaction, it was like, man, this kid is pretty funny. I should stick with him. It's pretty cool. And that's just when you become a friend of someone, like, that's the initial interaction. Almost always like, wow, yeah, like this person's pretty cool. But as I hung out with you, it was just like, yeah, this kid, he does have a very, very unique perspective on life. And you were one of the first people I ever met that explained, that went ahead and explained things, right? Okay. With no kind of, like raw. You know, a lot of people you meet in life will say, well, this is how I feel, but I don't know why I feel this way. It's just how I feel. Yeah. And I think it is important as you grow up to kind of understand why you're feeling a certain way. And it was always so cool because I know you remember, like there's one time where I called you out on, I was like, Phil, you have such a way of like, when I say something, you're just able to figure out why I feel that way. Like you're able to explain it to me.
Almost pull it out of you.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so cool because that made me in turn sit down and go, all right, so, you know, I need to really just think about, I need to take this and really like try to bring out like why am I feeling this way? Like why are the cogs turning the way they are? And I know more people like that since we have met. Like again, in this Discord I'm in, this Discord server, I met this guy named Ryan. He's very much New Yorker. He's a really cool guy. But he's raw. He's really raw. He doesn't care if you're a bad person, and like let's say we're talking and you're telling us about a situation where you're a shitty person, you did a bad thing, he's gonna call you out on it. He's gonna say, well, that's just the way it is, like you're just a bad person for doing this, like, and whether you like it or not, you know, and he will explain it to you. He won't just tell you that, he will explain it to you and
why he feels that way.
And he'll say, you know, well, this is why, and this is why I feel the way I do. He was like, I can't make you think that you're a bad person. I think you're a bad person, and you know that's just the way it is. And it's really raw, and I respect that. That's really cool because no one likes that kind of confrontation. A lot of people don't like when you sit there and you try to help them analyze it, but that's what they need a lot of the time. You know what I mean? And as awkward as it can get, because But that's why I stuck. He's a really cool guy. I like him a lot. That's why I've always stuck with him, because I can always trust for him to really give me like a raw like
Right.
take on, why is this the way it is? You know what I mean? I think the just to add it in there, I think the funniest shit he's ever said to me was, I think he was memeing, but it was like, what? I don't think a person exists until I can meet them. And it was like the thinking behind that was just like, well, I can hear you, and I've seen pictures of you, but do I really know like you are who you are? I was just like,
well, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah, and I was just like, I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, shit, Ryan, don't, that's actually like, you have a point, I guess, but like, come on.
Because you can create an image however you want
anyone.
to a certain degree.
Especially like on video games when you're just talking, there's no filter. Nobody's gonna like hit you if you say something super like racist or mean.
Yeah.
Yes, there's that, and there's also it's almost like an interview. You're giving an image of yourself that you're trying to promote the best version of you possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of how it works on the internet. Not with some people, because some people just don't understand that. But a lot of people can convey an image of themselves over Discord or Xbox Party Chat or something and show who they are to you at a surface level. But until you really engage with that person physically and you're face to face and you're talking with them and you're understanding them, like then is when I think you really start to get that person,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say everyone acts a little bit different when they're talking.
Yeah.
On video games.
Yeah, like it's anytime someone has like a because that's the thing about social media currently, right? There's a disconnection. There's a wall.
Yep.
There's not a physical. It's a metaphorical wall where it's like you set up a persona as close to you as possible, but it's not really you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's either who you want to be, who you want to display yourself as.
Yeah.
And no one can touch that unless they know you in real life, and I guess they can expose some details, whatever, right? Mostly though, it's what you want it to be, and people can be as ignorant as they want. They can do whatever essentially they want. It'll follow you, but it just it makes sometimes it makes the ignorance come out in people. And other times it just makes you more confident, and it makes you more willing to share your actual thoughts.
And that's the whole thing with hate this term, there's no better term, cyberbullying. The ability to say whatever you want to people's faces, say whatever you want to people over the internet, but then the second you're face to face with someone, there's this reality that just hits you of, oh, I'm actually saying this to this person, and they can see my face, and that's so much more powerful. I remember seeing this is just a silly thing that kind of sticks with me. These two people, each holding a corgi in their hands, and these dogs are barking at each other like they want to kill each other, and then both owners at the same time set the dogs down, and immediately the dogs look at each other and they just stop. They're like, oh, dang, we actually are face to face now. We are in front of each other, and we're both too afraid to do it. And that's kind of how the internet works, right? It's this idea that you can say whatever you want and trash someone, and obviously you shouldn't, but some people have this idea that they can trash people and say whatever they want, and then the second they're face to face with people, the reality hits them of, oh, I'm a person and they're a person.
Yep.
And I'm not being good to them.
Yeah. No, I've even seen that within like my own friend groups and like certain like group chats. People like start talking shit to each other and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna fight you next time I see you."
Yeah.
And we meet up and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Right. Yeah.
It's like, they're sort of like nice to each other.
Yeah.
Dap each other up.
Yeah. Yep.
But
It's pretty funny, but
like I think I may have actually stated what I wanted to state. Yeah, like people, the internet makes people more inclined to be who they are, whether it's a shitty person. Well, I think it makes more so it makes it more raw. So like, you know, I think most people have certain like tendencies and certain thoughts that they wouldn't say to you face to face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Correct.
You know, and it just brings that out. Whereas in real life, they'd be more timid, you know, in their viewpoints and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the thing about me. Like, podcast is probably getting a better side of me, but usually,
No, I think that generally when I interact with you as a person, I'm happy to have done so.
yeah. I'm not saying I'm gonna be like I'm gonna go home and play video games and be a shitty person.
No, I get what you're saying though. I mean, I was sitting on my living room chair, and you called me this morning, and you asked me what I was doing, and my first reaction wasn't, oh no, Gabe wants to hang out, but I'm here with John. Like, what do we do? My first reaction, I mean, I almost didn't even ask John. Sorry, but my first reaction was, but my first reaction. Well, no, I just mean sorry as in I didn't even question him and see whether or not it was okay to invite you. But my initial reaction is, Gabe just asked me if I'm free. Of course, I'm gonna hang out with Gabe, right? Like and especially because we're doing this right now, I wanted to be around you, and I like your presence, and I like your aura, and I think that people can kind of get an understanding of that just based on what you said today. Is you want to promote other people's success and other people's health, and you I think that's why you recently were, let's use the word, blessed with a new job that pays you more and can help you provide more for yourself and your kid, is that you always want to do good for other people. You're so selfless, and maybe you're selfish in the sense where you want to deal with your issues yourself, but that's not necessarily selfish, and everyone has their selfish tendencies. But you as a person, that's why I invite you to every get-together I have for Halloween and Christmas, and anytime I feel like I want a group of my closest friends there, you're always one of those people. And same with you, John. I mean, you know, and you and Mike and Nate and several other people, you just, the idea that you are both people in my life that I feel can spread this positive energy and this idea that we're all in this together and that we can help each other grow. And that's something that I respect so much about each of you individually as people, is that you guys just want what's best for people. And I love that about you guys, that you are there to support me and other people. I mean, you guys have conversations with some of my friends that you've literally only met once or twice because of my get-togethers.
Yeah.
But seeing the way that you people socialize with my friends that you don't really know is a beautiful and amazing thing. There's just this togetherness and this community of my friends getting together and growing with each other and teaching each other things and helping each other understand each other's perspectives. And that's why I wanted to have both of you on the show today, because I think you both give this perspective that not a lot of people give. And just like, thank you for that. Like, thank you for both being people in my life that I feel like I can grow from every time I interact with you. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah. Perspective, dude. That's all I can really say, right?
Perspective, yeah.
And it's you know, that's what I mean. Like, I would say again, starting from you, it kind of became a thing where I started to value that. I started to value it so much more. Not saying I will go out of my way to be a super extrovert and all that stuff, but I find it important that you go out and when you interact with people, you talk to them. You know, it might male or female, whatever age difference, and you go out there, and whether or not you like what they have to say, you at least like try to understand what they're saying and why they're saying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I come across people who think like that, because I know you think like that, it may be unconsciously, because you know it's people that just know that they love hearing others' perspective. And there's people that just want to shut it down. You know what I mean? They hate it. Like
yeah.
I mean, there are just people out there that are just shit people.
Yeah.
Like
They're closed-minded.
Are you on Twitter?
Yeah, like just people on Twitter, like they just want to shut like people down and or what's it called? Man, they use it a lot. They use that word a lot these days. I forgot what the word is.
Cancel culture?
No, not cancel culture. Oh man,
Not too though.
there's people that are bigots. There we go. There are bigoted people and stuff like that. But I mean, but then at that point, it's just like I've already heard your point of view from like 20 billion other people because they're the same way as you. There's people like that. I'll just be like, okay, well, I know what you have to say, so I don't really want to hear it. But I mean, there's still twice as half as many as people out there that have unique perspectives on life, and it might come across, that's a little weird, or I wouldn't go about it this way, or like you might have a negative connotation to it, but you still sit there and you say, well, let me, I'm the type of person and they're the type of person that'll listen to each other,
Right.
And that's what I think a lot of this, most of the world needs, it's just people, they've been saying this since like the 1970s, hippies and stuff. We need people to listen to each other more, you know what I mean? And that's what I think it goes into, just gaining perspective and carrying that and helping it to carry yourself, using it to make yourself a better person. I mean, and however you might see that. Hopefully not to become a bigot, but just to actually be a better person.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to understand that everyone else that you talk to, at least like in your age range, has also been on the earth just as long as you. They've had similar experiences throughout their entire life, so they've had to come to some reasonable conclusion as to why they believe what they believe.
Yeah, that's very true. I feel like I can't really explain why. I guess I could if I really got into it, but I think I've had these moments growing up, especially when I was in the hospital dealing with Dad's health issues, and you had some of these nurses that, I don't know how I did it because I was 10 years old, but I'm talking to some of these people as if I'm an adult. And again, I didn't have the knowledge of an adult when I was that age, but they would frequently tell me that I was an old soul. I can't imagine how many times I've been told that. And it's weird. And I think that I've, throughout my life, realized that I have this, not necessarily an obligation, but this innate desire to communicate with people and understand the way they think and help that evolve my mindset. And just this idea that I want everyone to care for each other, and I want people to love each other, and I want people to listen to each other more and understand each other. And just having that mindset has improved my relationship with so many people, and especially my mother. We definitely had a time in our life when my mother and I did not get along. We were not understanding of each other. We couldn't be in the same room together and function properly and have a conversation. And within the past couple of years, just because I've been more opening to listen to her has totally shifted our relationship. Because again, I don't have to agree with everything she says, and I don't have to support her in everything she says, but just like you said, Gabe, just listen to each other more. Just listening to people. I had a day a couple weeks ago where I'm just sitting there at the table talking with my mother about the way she struggled with certain things in high school and her hardships and how it changed her as a person and the way she is a person because of the experiences that she has had. And I found myself consciously thinking, wow, I'm sitting here having an intellectual, like progressive, understanding conversation with someone that 2 years ago I couldn't do this with, all because I'm just willing to just sit there and listen more. And
sometimes you have to be the one that steps up.
You have to be the one that steps up and listens.
Most other people won't do it.
Yeah, some people just, and I mean, I'm not perfect. I've obviously been one of those people at one time or another that just isn't willing to listen or understand. But I think I appreciate my mother so much more as a person than I ever have in my life. And after listening to her more, I understand her more. It's this weird paradox where people think, I don't like them, so I don't want to listen to them. But the thing is that if you're willing to listen to people more, you understand them more, so then it's easier to like them because your understanding of their flaws, your understanding of why they are the way they are as a person. But when you listen to them more, it helps you just gain these new perspectives. It's just this big circle. It's like just listen more and you'll understand more. And because you understand more, you'll listen more. And it just goes in this loop.
Yeah, and you started making connections that you hadn't made before.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Make connections you've never made before. And I just honestly shout out to Mom. Mom, if you're listening, I've gotten so much more appreciation for you as a person. And I'm just so thankful that within the past couple of years, I've been able to understand you more and love you more. And I think that's something that we all need to carry over into our daily lives. There's this book that I constantly reference because it totally changed my life. It's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, It's All Small Stuff. Forget who the author is, I apologize for that. But that's where I got that quote from, life's a test, it's only a test, that sort of thing. But one of the things he said was, anytime you're interacting with someone, think about what they can be teaching you. Because even if you're interacting with someone, Gabe, you and I have been there, on the phone with someone doing help desk, and they are very impatient, and they're blabbing about something, and they're all worked up, you can learn from that by saying, I'm going to listen to them, and by listening to them, I can maybe get a better understanding of why they are the way they are, which then helps you grow as a person. Because if you understand the mindset of someone else, it helps you understand your mindset. And I think that's something that is so amazing. I mean, John, I just said to you on the way back from picking up groceries this morning, I said, isn't being human so amazing? We can think, we feel, we can listen to music, we can love, we can hurt. Yeah. There's so many things that we can do, and just the fact that we're alive and the fact that we're human is such an amazing experience. I mean, I wouldn't be the soul I am today had I only lived as a porcupine. And I think being able to live as a human has helped my consciousness and my soul evolve in ways that it never has before. And I know I've done this quite a few times, but I think it's that journey, it's that game, it's that life that you live in which you have always just felt this need to understand the world you live in. And unfortunately, in my mind, some people are so new on the reincarnation scale that they just haven't gotten to that point yet where they're willing to accept that they are here to learn, and they're not happy about living. And I've expressed this to you guys, and I know I've definitely mentioned this on the podcast before, but I definitely had a point in my life where I was very depressed, and I didn't feel like I belonged here, and I didn't understand why I was here, and I didn't want to keep going. But having this shift of perspective, and now just instead saying, well, I'm here no matter what, so I have to live this life. No matter why I'm here, if my entire theory of how I'm here is wrong and something else is right, either way, this is the life I have to live, so I might as well make the best of it. And I think that that's something that a lot of people should think more about, and we should listen to each other more. We should learn to understand each other more, because there's always something you can learn from someone else, almost no matter what they're saying to you. I mean, I've had interactions with homeless people in Philly, and they're saying something to me about just their hardships, and I think, well, I can understand why they are the way they are a little bit better just based on what they told me. And then that helps me understand how I don't want to be homeless and be self-loathing and be in an unfortunate situation in which I'm not in good conditions. And anyone out there that you interact with can teach you something. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's very important to me at this point in my life, and I hope I carry that on to the end of my days. Is I want to listen to people more, I want to understand people more, and use that as fuel for understanding myself and the reality that I live in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely on the right track. I mean,
I don't know how long you've been kind of going through that, but you definitely, I think you've definitely been on. Well, at least since I met you at BTI, I feel like you're a soul searcher. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean what you said earlier about like when you talk to people, we're doing our job, doing like help desk. I actually had a experience it was kind of funny. I mean, it wasn't really. It was actually, well, it was during around the same time, right? So, back in 2016, I was working for an unnamed bank. I will say that.
Yeah.
And I was doing their IT, and we were just doing like employees, right? So we only did an in-house like employee.
Right, it was all internal.
Yeah,
You
it was all
were the
internal.
help desk for the employees of the corporation.
Not like the customers. Thank God,
Correct.
right? So
Thank God. Yeah.
so.
Or thank the absolute. But continue.
So I was working at an unnamed bank in 2016. Right after I got out of BTI. Well, no, that probably was 2018. I lied. Yeah, because 2016 is when I went to BTI.
Well, you didn't lie. You misremembered.
I misremembered. There we go. That's yeah. There you go. Wow. Yeah. I should start using that more. So in 2018, I was working for Santander. It was only like half a year because of things that happened.
Yeah.
But that's another story. It was interesting because I got a call. It was like near the end of my shift, and there was this really old lady that, you know, I was a little bit annoyed because at that time it was like who calls around the hour, because I was working from 10 to 7. I was like, who's gonna call like from the hour of 6 to 7 o'clock. But you know, that's just me being a prude, and I shouldn't have been annoyed, but I was annoyed nonetheless, right? So pick up the phone. This lady was just going off. She was just being she was just hammering me in terms of like, oh, you one of those people that essentially like they don't understand that you can't just some things you can't just fix, like you can't just fix right
she
then
has
and there.
the urgency and the impatience because she's in a high stress situation, based on her perspective.
Exactly. So you're already understanding it right now, you know, and I understand it now, and I try to now when I'm working, right, so I don't ever get myself into the situation which got me fired. Again, another story. But so what happened was Phil's laughing.
I'm just laughing about that story because it was so funny.
I'll probably tell her right after. But look, so you know, it was weird because, you know, I calmed down. I was like, okay, so let me see if I can help this lady. Her laptop was overheating and just freezing and just turning off.
That's unfortunate.
Right? So she didn't understand why it was doing all these things.
Right.
She had a deadline. She needed to put through very important documents.
Right, 'cause when you think about it, if you tried to do her job, you would bomb so hard. Sorry, just a side note.
Yeah, no.
This is one of the things that I always loved saying to people when I worked at a hospital, and it just the light that lit up people's faces. They were so happy. I was like, they're like, oh, I don't get why it's doing this, and I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. I would always say to them, hey, if I tried to do your job, I'd probably literally kill people, because you work in a medical industry, and if I try to administer shots or do something else, I wouldn't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm literally here to fix your computer. I'm not here to do what you do. You know how to do what you do, and I know how to do what I do. So just once you say that to people, it almost helps them. It gives them perspective, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
and they always have a boss that's like telling them that this shit should be easy. You know?
Yeah,
so,
right.
Exactly.
So they just think like, oh, everyone just thinks my job's easy.
Right.
So they kind of have that perspective.
So continuing on from there, the weird part was when she broke down. Like, she actually sat there, and I remember it because it was just so. I mean, it was funny when it happened, right? Even I felt bad, but
try not to laugh over the phone.
Yeah. So she broke down, and she broke down when I told her, you know, this is probably gonna we are going to need to have this looked at with field services, because the computer is it's gonna die. The fan was going off. It was making a really loud noise. The one of the specific details she told me was that she would work on a dining room table, so they had like a plastic cover over it. So she was like, it's melting it's so hot, it's melting the plastic on my plastic cover on my dining room table. She was going off, like she was like, oh, like my cousin was gonna come home, it melted the plastic, I need to get this report in, oh my god. And so that's when she started crying. Like I heard her crying through her voice, and I felt bad, but it was look, it was my last hour. I was ready to go
delusional
home.
At this point because you've been taking so many calls.
Yes, I was practically delusional at this point. I was just like, man, what is going on? so I laughed. Not laughed at to her, like, because I would have probably got fired then. But I laughed and like to myself, and I was like, wow, like Jesus, the lady's just going off. And then she started crying, like this, like not hysterically, but like like a kid cries, like like that.
Right. It's sobbing.
You can hear it in their voice.
Like sobbing. So that continued for longer than I think it might have been. It might have been probably like a minute and 30 seconds, but she cried silently, not silently, like a little bit audible, like Phil, I want the podcast to know Phil's just laughing his ass off. That's okay. That doesn't make him better. It's funny as shit.
It's really sad though. because it's tough to put yourself in her head.
Yeah.
And she's in the same spot you are. It is 5:50 or something.
It was like probably like 6:20 or something.
She has had a day. She is so done with it to the point where she is emotionally broken. Like, put yourself in her shoes.
Oh, dude,
that's so sad.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be looking back at myself and laughing as well, though.
Yeah.
I would also. Yeah.
No, yeah, it was like, all right, look, it was funny because of like it was just an awkward situation, but it was very like I felt bad that I came into the call like, wow, this person's just gonna annoy the shit out of me, and they kind of did initially because they were just like going ham about like this issue that needs to be fixed, But then I didn't like that's when I caught myself thinking like, this person is probably going like she like when she started crying, that's when I was like, wow, like this person probably did have a really rough day. So, I was just like, well, I couldn't do anything from there, so I was just like, I'm gonna create a ticket. I'm gonna put it in an as soon as possible urgency. I'm not supposed to. I did though because I felt really bad.
No, I can understand that. Sometimes when you sympathize with the people, you decide to bump up the priority because you understand their perspective.
Yeah, I understand. Right. Like she was crying, so it was just like, man, like she probably was. I don't know if she was gonna get fired. I don't know if she is fired. I don't know what happened. That was in 2018, and that was 2 years ago. Yeah, so I just I did that for her, and like it was like I didn't even get any heat. Like I never heard about that ticket after that. But it was just so surreal because that moment it felt so elongated. Like it was like she was crying and I was just like sitting there, and that the funniest part, it wasn't even that was that awkward. The funniest part was, and again, don't judge me. I after she cried, I waited like a few more seconds and it was just pure silence. After I determined I was gonna send it, I was like, is there anything else I can do for you today? And she was just like, no. I was like, oh well. I'm gonna go ahead and send it off. Take numbers, whatever. It was very melancholic. Mm-hmm. It was very much somber, and I just like I hung up the call, and that was it. And I felt really bad. Like it was just like, man, like I didn't know what to say. Like there's nothing you can. I guess in that situation, there's nothing you can really say. But it's just like, man, like you don't know what people really go through. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it was such a. It started as like, I'm just gonna take this call. It's a regular call. Hopefully it's like 2 minutes, whatever, right? It just was something else. It was just something like I could have never expected. And it was kind of funny, yeah. But like looking back on it, like I hope that lady, I hope it went well for her. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I'm a human being, and I hope and through that moment she was able to make it through all that stupid shit,
Yeah,
because it was stupid shit. It should work, you should be caring about your mental health. You should be caring about the people in your life that make you feel good, and just like caring for yourself instead of caring about some fucking stupid report. It might have had to do with somebody's finances, and that can be life or death sometimes, but man, like it's not worth breaking down and just crumbling. You're losing your sanity over shit like that. And looking back at it, that's why I think about it now. Like, wow, man. Like sometimes, like a job can make you feel like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now, since experiencing things like that and going through the things I recently went through, it's like, now that's what kind of brought me into who I am now, and just trying to value perspective more, putting myself in people's shoes.
Yeah.
Man, that's the theme for this episode. Huh?
No, really, just empathy, perspective, putting yourself in other people's shoes, and understanding the way they think, and realizing that everyone's different, and that's sort of why we like watching movies or reading books, isn't it? Because we put ourselves in the minds of these characters. John, for example, The Lighthouse that we watched. Yeah. You put yourself into the perspective of the people experiencing the situation, and you start to understand why they're going crazy, why they're losing their mind because of the experiences that they're having. And you sit back and you think, if I were stranded on an island with one other person that I despised being around, and I became a heavy drinker, and there's a mermaid making me go insane and things like that, like you're gonna end up the way they are.
Yeah. So it's really easy to like sit back and judge and be like, wow, that person's just crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think anyone in the same situation.
Is that a really good movie?
It's a really good movie.
I wanted to watch that.
It's a really good movie. Yeah, I've seen it 3 times now, and I love it. Yep.
It was weird. I would watch it again.
Yeah. I think that's part of life. That is the point of this podcast, is to help people realize that they're doing everything everybody else is doing, and everyone is in the same boat within a certain degree, because everyone's in certain in certain situations, and you've been raised a certain way, and you have certain things that happen, like having a kid at 16, or your parents going through a divorce, or your dad dying when you're 10. It's all these things that shape us as people, and that's why it's so important to try to understand others, because gaining that understanding of them as people helps you understand yourself more.
Yeah. It's that's man. Like I said, it would make the world so much just nicer. You know what I mean? Like if everyone just had that kind of thought process, like, maybe I might be really strong about this, especially with the time, like especially what we're living in now. Biden's projected to win the presidential election, and I'm sure it's always been red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat. Even in this especially in this kind of the time that we're living in, now more than ever, I think we really need to kind of ground ourselves and remember that everyone has like a certain everyone has a specific experience, and we might not be able to, I think now more than ever it's important to understand, or at least try to understand, where everyone is coming from. You know what I mean? And it's invaluable. It's invaluable. It really is.
Yeah.
But yeah. I might need a refill.
I've been out for a little while, but yeah.
I think I think we're pushing quite a bit of time here, so I think we're ready to kind of wrap this up. But John, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Thank you for coming and spending your time with me last night and today. And Gabe, thank you for coming and being here today. And thank you both of you for
throwing up the peace sign right now.
Throwing up the peace sign. Yeah. Thank you for being here, and thank you for spreading that peace. Thank you for giving your perspective and your mindsets, and thank you for sharing. And I think that I'm definitely gonna have both of you on again. There's no way I'm not gonna, because you're both people that I value in my life, and I appreciate having you people on the podcast and getting your perspective. So
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is a once you told me that you were doing a podcast, or you had set up to do one today, I was, or rather you wanted me on it. I was excited for it.
Yeah.
I enjoy being able to share with the people. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Because that's what this is all about, is helping to share with people and help people grow, because doing this helps me grow. Because I get to sit here and listen to your perspectives and listen to what you guys have to say. So, this is about helping other people grow, but in my mind, it's helping myself grow.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, it's helping me grow because I get to listen to what you guys have to say, and I get to gain new perspectives. Again, perspective. That's the word. That's the theme. Is just gaining perspective.
It's the word of the day.
That's the word of the day. Perspective. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's the word of the day, like Sesame Street. You know.
Yes. Perspective. Yeah. So, any final words from either of you?
Perspective. It's my final word.
Yeah, it's the word of the day, guys. Look, wake up. You know, this is the stuff I was struggling with recently, right? For other reasons, maybe in another podcast, right? Wake up. You know, make sure to brush your teeth when soon as you open your eyes. Wake up, get up, do what you gotta do, right? Brush your teeth, take a shower, make something for yourself to eat. Breakfast is important. Do what you gotta do before, after the afternoon. Eat lunch, eat a sandwich, eat anything. Do what you gotta do there, right? Relax. Remember to take time for yourself. Eat dinner. Remember to go to bed at a good time. Yeah. Always. Those are the keys to having a good day and having a all around good life if you do it daily. Just do what you gotta do. Get all the dumb shit out of the way first, and live.
Yeah. And drink more water.
Drink more water.
Please drink more water.
Drink more water. All right, folks. Well, I'll see you guys on another episode. To everyone out there, if you shoot over to timeforanything.com, we have all our links to all our social media. We've got a Find Us page in which you can send us a message and maybe some suggestions for future episodes. We have all our episodes posted on there, on the site. So whenever you guys want to either listen to more content from us or reach out to us, timeforanything.com. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.